Global Wisdom Missions, a ministry with global impact. Global Wisdom Missions is an organization of Christian ministers from different denominations and countries dedicated to presenting Jesus personally to this generation of the young minister and leader by assisting them to fulfill their calling by following and applying the wisdom of God. Our vision is to be a global conference that raises a generation of gospel-centered, gospel-driven, and gospel-focused ministers of Christ who shall proclaim the gospel with integrity, purity, simplicity, and without adulteration. We are achieving our vision through educating ministers and leaders through our weekly broadcast of the Wisdom Conference on Facebook and YouTube Live, which is making a global impact. Wisdom Impact Magazine, our quarterly educational, inspirational, and informational magazine, which will be printed in hard copies and be distributed globally free of charge to countries and territories which may not have access to internet. The Global Wisdom Academy, an online ministerial and leadership training academy which remains steadfast and committed to carrying out God's purpose of empowering Christian ministers and leaders globally to effectively execute leadership and ministry work with wisdom. Global Wisdom Missions' aim is to proclaim the gospel in word and deed, describing the shape of Jesus' own ministry. The Apostle Peter says he went around doing good and healing all. Through missions, we seek to provide health care for a lasting change during our actual Global Wisdom Conferences in different countries with our skilled medical physicians, experienced surgeons, and professional health workers. Partner with us now. Help us spread the gospel of Jesus Christ around the world and take it to places where you may not be able to go yourself. Together, we can make a difference in somebody's life today. To give your donation, visit our website at www.globalwisdommissions.com and donate via our PayPal link or register your interest at wisdomconference3@gmail.com.
Good afternoon and good evening, everyone. Welcome to today's broadcast. As usual, we come to you from all over the world with experts to discuss topics that are important. I think today's topic is interesting, and a lot of people may ask, why are we talking about menopause? Menopause is something that every woman, if you live long enough, you're going to go through. And therefore, it's important to know about it. And a lot of times, we have men and families that live with women going through menopause, and we don't understand why certain things happen the way they happen. And because of that, we label them and think that, they are behaving in a certain kind of way. And I think it's important for everybody to understand what menopause is and what the health implications are for every woman, and then also for the families, the spouses and the children and other family members to understand so that they can support a woman going through these changes. And so it's very important, and I think we need to get not just women, but every man who's married, every man wishes to get married on board to listen and to learn something because it's going to change your life. And for today, we have a distinguished panel to help us sift through this. And we have Dr. Giti Kwashingisa coming to us from Ghana, and then Dr. Ya Amankwa coming to us from Canada. I will have them to introduce themselves briefly, and then we will go over to Maud, and we'll start asking the questions. So, Dr. Kwashingisa, can you briefly introduce yourself? Amankwa, can you introduce yourself first?
Okay. Thank you very much to the organizers and to Professor Lai for inviting me onto this broadcast. It's a big privilege. I am Amankwa. I'm an obstetrician gynecologist at the Ottawa Hospital in Canada. I practice both obstetrics and gynecology, but I have a very special interest in menopausal and midlife women's health. And I have a big focus of my practice in this as well. Hoping today we'll be able to share some words of wisdom to help women live a fulfilling life after menopause. Thank you.
Okay, let's see. Is Dr. Kwashing is back?
Dr. Kashi, can you hear us?
Yes, I think Yes, I think the reception is better now. Yes. So my name is Dr. Gifty Kwashing. I'm an obstetrician and gynecologist, and I'm also the medical director for Now Midway Hospital. So we just attained 40 years last year. We're a 40-year-old private practice hospital that currently runs more than 10 specialties, and we are situated in Ashmota and Abofu. My main interest is more in fertility management, and that's basically what I do.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, so Maud, I think you can take it away.
Yeah, we are so privileged tonight to have you, Dr. Kashi, and Dr. Ya, as well as Dr. Layu with us. And as usual, I'm your host, Maud Latte. And yeah, we're going to have a lovely time discussing about menopause. And like Dr. Layu rightly said, it's important that the men in our lives understand all these things. Right. So my first question goes to you, Dr. Ya. So what is menopause and why is it important that we talk about it tonight?
All right. So menopause is a series of biological changes that a woman's body goes through, which eventually leads to the cessation or the stopping of the menstrual period. So when I say it's biological changes, it's basically due to the fact that the woman is run out of eggs. I'm going to use a very simple language because I know our audience are not necessarily medical people. So a little girl is born with about 2 million eggs on her ovaries at birth. And by the time she gets to puberty, there are only about 300,000 eggs left, right? And eventually she continues to lose eggs on a monthly basis until she runs out of eggs, pretty much. And once a woman runs out of eggs, the periods will stop. And so that is what we refer to as menopause. So it is that actually menopause is it's the last period that the woman will ever have. So people misuse the term loosely, saying, oh, I've been in menopause for 20 years. They just mean that they are postmenopausal. So that final period happens. After that, you should not be getting another period, and then you're postmenopausal. So that's what's happening around menopause. And the other question was, why is it important? I think based on where in the world we live, we will notice that a woman lives quite a few years, beyond menopause. Sadly enough, in the developing world, where the life expectancy is a bit shorter, there's fewer years after menopause than before menopause. But in the developed world, if you're thinking of a life expectancy of about 80 years for a woman, and you went into menopause at 50, you're looking at 30 extra years beyond menopause that you have to live. So you want to make sure that part of your life is lived to the best, health-wise, symptom-wise, and pretty much looking at all those aspects. So that's why menopause is important.
Dr. Ya, back to you. So what is perimenopause then?
So perimenopause are those years leading up to menopause. So the woman in several years leading up to menopause, which could be anywhere from 2 years before that final period, or sometimes up to 8 to 10 years before the final period, may start to experience changes in her menstrual cycle. So this is where those eggs are the ones that the woman was born with as a little girl. So these eggs are old. So it's all genetic materials. So the eggs are not ovulating on a regular cycle. They may be ovulating too frequently or too spaced apart. So the woman's cycle start to change. So she may go from that monthly period to a period every 2 weeks, or sometimes a period every 3-4 months. And associated with these menstrual cycle changes, she would also start to have some symptoms of menopause, which we will be touching on later. So perimenopause is the years leading up to menopause, pretty much.
Okay, so Dr. Kwashi, next question comes to you. So kind of at what age do most women experience menopause? And then maybe I'll ask the follow-up question. Kind of what are the main symptoms that women experience? We hear about hot flashes, and I think that's what most people know about. So if you can address at what age most women experience menopause and what their main symptoms are.
All right. So averagely worldwide, we say that 51 years is when most women would experience menopause, and that goes for Caucasian women. Although the normal range can be anything from 43 to 57 years. In Ghana, we find that people have an average age of 48 years, plus or minus 3 years. And yes, there are more symptoms to menopause flashes. If you want to look at the symptoms of menopause, we can divide them into, let's say, psychological issues. We can divide it into genital or urogenital issues. We can also look at mental or emotional issues, and then musculoskeletal issues and sexual desire. So if I take the vasomotor, which is more to do with the regulation of temperature in your body. So most of the audience would not understand vasomotor. So let me put it this way. So estrogen, or the hormones that the body produces, the female hormone produces, is helpful in a part of the brain that regulates your temperature control. And now when your estrogen levels start to go down, which is signs of perimenopause, you start getting a problem in that center. And that affects how you react. And you have more than 75% of women getting hot flashes. And hot flashes are basically more blood getting into your skin. So if you are fairer, you look red. It becomes red, and then that's around the chest, the neck, and the head. And then it's followed by intense heat. That your heart is beating very fast, you get a bit of anxiety. And also you have symptoms of difficulty sleeping and generally irritability. Now, for people who had it, if their menopause is a result of surgery, or whether you're smoking, you smoke, or if you are smaller, or if you get menopause very early. Some people get menopause set 40 failure. So they would have more of the vasomotor symptoms. Then we can also look at the urogenital symptoms, and that basically means things affecting the urinary system and the female reproductive tract. And so the same vein, estrogen reduction in the levels of estrogen will tend to cause the thinning of the mucosa or thinning of the lining of the vagina, the where we pee from, of the bladder, of the things around the sexual hormone, the sexual organs. And so you find that the vagina may become shorter or narrower. And so some people will start experiencing pain with sex. They may start peeing more frequently than normal. Sometimes when you want to pee, you just have to get to the bathroom immediately, or you're going to pee on yourself. And also some people tend to get more frequent urine infections. And so this we call a syndrome, for urogenital syndrome. Then we have the mental or psychological symptoms that can occur if you are menopausal. And so as well, you have a reduction in the brain's ability to function. Normally, your estrogen levels or the female hormone levels, they tend to protect your brain and nerve tissue. And so when they start to reduce, some people will get a loss in their brain function because of damage to the nerves in the nerves in the brain. And sometimes you get reduction in motor function as well. And this is also comes with mood changes, the irritability, and all of those that follow. Now, if we take the musculoskeletal changes that can occur, then in the same vein, the female hormone tends to help with bone formation. So for a normal person, you would have your bones building up and breaking at all the times in your life. And when you have low of your female hormones, you tend to get more of the breakdown occurring. So you get weakened bones. And because the bones become weakened, we say they become osteoporotic. It makes it easier for you to break your bones or fracture your bones when you fall from a height that no one expects you to. So what we call like a fragility fracture. So if an elderly woman is standing and misses her step and falls down, then she's likely to get a break in the bone of the wrist or the backbone, lower backbone, or the hip bone. And then in terms of sexual desire, so in as much as the female hormones are reducing, you also have a reduction in your male hormones, a light reduction in your male hormones. And male hormones tend to give you libido. So when you have that decrease, people would complain of decreased sexual desire. And also because of the loss of wetness of the vagina, then you'd have painful sex. And so the sexual experience is not very great. So basically, this is like the 5 different systems it affects and the symptoms you can get for menopause.
Okay, so let me ask a follow-up question. So,
Dr. Lai,
yes.
Dr. Lai, sorry to interrupt. It seems like we are not showing on Facebook. So there seem to be some technical.
Okay.
It's only showing on Facebook and on YouTube, not on Facebook.
Okay.
Because I've had people comment. So I'm just going to stop it and then we are going to recreate a new link, please.
Okay.
That's okay. Yeah.